Bonjour, Mr. Middendorp. Good morning, everyone. My name is Eric. I'm a Chinese typographer based in Tokyo, and I'm also a member of TDC Advisory Board. It's a great honor for me to speak here today. I would like to talk some stories about the TDC, which is the Type Director Club. I think most of you know that. It was founded in 1946, so it's a little earlier than ATypI. And it's founded by a group of type directors, originally called type specifiers, from the advising agencies. Their mission was the education of industry people about the creative use of typography. They accomplished this through monthly luncheon and dinner meetings and conferences. In 1955, one of its members, Ed Goschel, suggested having a competition to select the best use of typography. It was open only to members, and we don't have the record of who is the winner. And in 1956, which is TDC2, it was open to the world. The code of entries was designed by Herb Lumberling, but I cannot get the slide going. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Just walk.
Okay. Oh, it goes. Okay. So that's the very first, you can see the poster on 1947. And you can see this it was made by Lumberling in 1956. Mm-hmm. And a catalog was selected to present the winners of the competition. And these catalogs continued until 1977, which is TDC 25. And in the next year, the winners of TDC 26 were shown in the Typography 1. That is the book, you know. In 1998, two TDC members, James Montalbano and Paul Shaw, suggested that removing the type design entries from the communication design. So there are separated two competitions, the one for type design and one for communication design. So that is, wow. And Typography 19 contains the winners from both the competitions. And this style continued for 25 years. And 5 years ago, the TDC annual was renamed and trademarked as the world's best typography. That you can see here, it is the 39th annual of the Type Director Club. And this year, the TDC 2023, we call TDC 69. It's broken into three categories. We have typography, lettering, and type design. The annual will be the world's best typography 44. And since 1958, the TDC also has exhibitions of the winning works traveling around the world. And now we have 8 exhibits that are traveling. Before COVID, 1 year in particular, the exhibits are shown in both in print and on screen in 20 countries and 50 cities. And you can see this is the one that we show in Shanghai. And TDC continues its mission of education through its talks and type direct cultural conferences, type salons, and workshops. And we also have the Ascenders competition for those younger than 35. And now it is in the 4th year. Of course, we have 3 scholarships for the students. And in 2022, TDC merged into the One Club for Creativity. So the One Club for Creativity is the producer for the One Show, the ADC Annual Awards, One Asia Creative Awards, and TDC Competition, TDC Ascenders, and Young Guns, and more. It is the world's foremost non-profit organization whose mission is to support and celebrate the global creativity community. Revenue generated from the entries to its global awards shows goes back into the industry and to fund the programming under the organization's 4 pillars, with their education, inclusion and diversity, gender equality, and the creative development. And now TDC is led by an advisory board and working together with the executive director, Karen Waller. But it's a great pity that she cannot come here to join us this time. So we are fortunate enough to have a video from Carol. So I would like the technical team to play the video for me.
Good morning. I'm Carol Waller, the TDC Executive Director. I am so sorry I cannot be with you in person today, but I am happy to have both Eric Liu and Lawrence Penney to represent TDC in my absence. In 1967, the TDC Board of Directors wanted to have an award which would honor those who excel in the field of typography, whether a type designer or type user. Over the past 56 years, only 34 people have been given the TDC medal. The first recipient was Hermann Zoff. Today we honor our latest recipient, Jan Middendorp. And now, TDC Advisory Board member, Eric Liu.
So ladies and gentlemen, this is the TDC medal. And we are very pleased that we are going to send this to Mr. Middendorp. And it's also very a pity that he cannot join us here today. But fortunately, we have a very nice person who can introduce Mr. Middendorp for us. So I would like to invite some of our guests to introduce their stories with Mr. Middendorp. So maybe I would like to ask Petra first.
Hey, hi. So I'm Petra Docekalova. I'm type designer based in Prague, Czech Republic, if you doesn't know me. And even though Jan Middendorp was never my teacher, he taught me a lot. In my humble opinion, one of Jan's most significant contributions to the typography field lies in the whole bookmaking process. Jan initiated the idea of capturing the wide-ranging topic that was not fully described and not even published yet. He systematically gathered the content and visual materials, no matter how long it took, sometimes years of outstanding obsessive collecting. Then he had the energy and power not only to write and translate, if necessary, the entire texts, but also participate in designing the entire book concept and layout. If necessary, he initiated the creation of the font needed for typesetting. That also involved his art director skills, like inviting various graphic designers and typographers to join his journey to self-publish multiple books on typography. Finally, he managed to widely spread the finished piece to typography community. Jan breathed life into many well-known books. One of his most admirable book projects, a milestone publication, ATypI, was born the exact way. Honestly, ATypI became my own personal Bible, not only for its content, but for its evolution process. Only this way can be born a genuine project. Following that role model, we've created the Typo 9010 project, an encyclopedia of Czech digitized typefaces. Understanding of Jan's approach, I'm trying to follow his personal and deeply focused attitude in my projects too, and that's a lesson well learned. Jan's contribution to the cultural and mainly typography world affected many type designers, readers, and artists, and will do that to many newcomers in the future too. His publications and texts are essential to every typographist's reading list and also to physical library. Also, Jan was a magician. Thanks to him, 12 students from Umprum Academy in Prague knew how to sell a font from the first draft to the first invoice in just 12 weeks. And now I'm here missing Jan's semi-dark, Dutch sharp, German dry jokes and listen to his inimitable DJ skills. I'm glad to know Jan Middendorp personally for many years and lucky to call him a friend. I could hardly imagine someone better to be awarded as a TDC medal recipient. Congratulations, Jan.
Thank you, Petra. Maybe next time I would like to invite Lawrence, please.
Thank you, Eric. Some of you in the type world have known Jan since the 1990s. It's a time we now think of as the early days of digital type. And of course, it was the early days. But back then, Font Shop gave the impression of a mature industry with its superb design, but which is, will go down in history, certainly for it's very respected for its design, but not only its design, the excellent writing helped significantly in establishing a solid place for type in this new world of digital graphic design. And much of that writing was by Jan Middendorp. And he, more than anyone else, made connections outside of type, outside even of graphic design. He made numerous connections to the wider culture, which I think is significant in where type is today. I knew of him by reputation and a few brief meetings in those years. And that reputation was enhanced, of course, by Dutch type in 2004, which you all know. I got to know him properly when I lived for the summer of 2006 in Berlin and got invited to one of many soirees that Jan would have in his flat in Oranienstrasse, which were extremely enjoyable, full of a wide variety of people from various backgrounds, all ages, academic, business people, dancers, musicians, and that kind of thing. At the time, My Fonts, for whom I was working for, was growing and getting more serious, and we were increasingly aware that one thing we lacked was a good writer. Our newsletters were not that great. I was writing them. And in discussions with Adam Twardok, my colleague, and we invited him to write for us, invited Jan to write for us then, and Jan accepted and proposed immediately to start a series of interviews with type designers. And the Creative Characters series eventually numbered 100 interviews. For every single one, Jan did his research well, and his questions were probing and respectful, deeply informed not just by knowledge of the world of type, but by wider culture where type would be used. And not for Jan, the lazy 10 questions kind of pseudo-interview. Jan's ability to make connections between cultures is extraordinary. His deep knowledge of contemporary type and history is complemented like nobody else by a deep knowledge of contemporary culture. Theatre, dance, music, art, politics, the environment. He might easily drop any of these references into an interview to deepen the connection with the interviewee and made the interview so much more than a discussion of influences or shapes. And he speaks 6 languages, at least. I think I might be underestimating. 6 languages without apparent effort, which gives him an immense advantage in making connections with the type designers from South America, Italy, France. Not happy with the corporate culture of quarterly revenue obsessions, which increased after My Fonts joined Monotype, Jan left to start his own foundry, Fust & Friends. He wrote Shaping Text, which is widely used as a typography primer in universities and by graphic designers. And he continued writing, as he had been for many years, for I magazine, where Jan had perhaps his best platform. The editor, John Walters, recently offered, for example, Jan a 10-page interview with a French graphic designer of theatre posters that were typeset and illustrated lovingly take a look at the index in iMagazine for Jan Middendorp and look up the articles and check them out in old copies of iMagazine. He's also translating for Ypsilon Editor some works on typeface designers and typesetting for Repeater Books, a radical British publisher, giving it a functional elegance without a hint of any bourgeois. The soirees that I mentioned from years before, they continued, so it was always a pleasure to visit one of those when I was in Berlin. It wasn't long after I visited Jan, and maybe I'll address you personally, Jan, if you're watching. I think he's tuning in on the Zoom. It wasn't long after I visited you in Berlin that I heard you were to be awarded the TDC medal. I was deeply moved. Sometimes people forget to interview the interviewer. You deserve this medal, you'd love it here, and we know you tried to make a plan to come. I hope you're watching today, and all the best to you.
Thank you, Lawrence, for the great words. And last one, I would like to ask Jerry, come here. Would you like to have your words?
Thank you, Eric. I'm not sure I can add very much. Petra and Lawrence did a fine job of giving us insights into Jan. And I'm thrilled that possibly that Jan is maybe tuning in and also a bit apprehensive because he might really not approve of what I have to say. But anyway, looking at typefaces are pretty bad at telling us stories about themselves. And that our industry is good at exploring technology, culture, creativity. Sometimes it's good at innovation and surprising us. It's pretty bad at telling stories about itself and weaving some sort of narrative about who we are and what we do. And for that, we need some sort of outside perspective. Jan has been one of the best outside-inside eyes into our field, spanning a period of quite intense change, evolvement, expansion, enlargement, and quite a lot of complications. And I think his superpower was mostly bringing in not any partiality into this, but bringing his wide education, his wide interest in other areas of culture. Lawrence mentioned his polymathy and abilities in many languages, which certainly informed his reading, and bringing all of this perspective into our little corner of the world. That helped also put typefaces with some modesty in their place, but also explain much better their connections to wider issues. That he has been able to do this at a number of levels in the genre of writing, I think is quite rare and admirable. He's done this in short form writing that might be intended for a more commercial or marketing operation. He's done this in mid-size text that might be intended for students. Shaping text was mentioned, and I'll come back to this later. He's also done it in larger editions that are more research-based and are documenting. There's a lot of people who might be good at one of these things. Not many people who can switch hats and do a lot of these things at the same time in parallel. So that is quite an admirable skill. He's been able to weave narratives about type without investing his particular viewpoint. If you read his text, you don't necessarily see what he might think about this. He's been able to understand the perspective of the makers and the audiences, and I think that kind of humility and modesty while writing with authority is again something rare. I mentioned shaping text because Jan's, this is the bit you might not like if you're watching, Jan's culture and placement is very Eurocentric. And that is fine. That's absolutely as it should be in a way for someone coming from that point of view. But when we started looking at candidates for translating fundamental texts for introducing typography into other languages, and especially Chinese, where the reference points are quite different, we started with shaping text. Because we thought, as a model of how to talk about things, this is actually as good as it gets. Even if you don't particularly care about the specific examples, the way of structuring thinking, the way of bite-sizing explanations, the kind of vocabulary used shows a mastery of explaining things at certain levels. I will point to Jan's interest in materiality and collecting things and looking at things in their original. Petra mentioned his thirst for collecting and acquiring things. Lawrence mentioned his flat piece is overflowing, shelves overflowing with printed objects. This keenness, this thirst to go back to the original material, to look at things in their sets, in their original way of being presented, is something that is not always easy. It's often expensive. It's very demanding in terms of investment of time. Jan never cut any corners on this, and that is reflected in his work. And that is married with his perpetual curiosity. Whenever we've crossed paths, I've been always thrilled because I will learn more from that engagement than I will give. And that is a wonderful feeling. There's another thing. All of the stuff we've said paints a very serious picture, which is not exactly right. Jan is someone who takes his work very seriously, but not himself. And in my mind, that is a credit to a very mature personality. So if you're watching, hugs and a toast, and to more dinners together. Thank you. Eric.
Thank you very much. Would you please come up again? And also Petra, yeah. And because Mr. Middendorp isn't here, so we would like Florian, yeah, to take this medal safely to Berlin.
I'd like to thank, on behalf of Jan, thank you to the TDC and to all of the people involved in this decision making. I'm sure that Jan would love to be here in Paris with all of you and see friends and colleagues, old and new. I know that he is deeply connected to many of you, and I hope that he will be able to see many of you in Berlin. I promise to bring this medal to him and deliver it safely. And yeah, thank you a lot. Merci bien.
Merci. Thank you. Congratulations and thank you all.